When Paul Mitchell announced that he was leaving Newcastle United at the end of June, it opened a huge can of worms. We, of course, went live a couple of hours after the announcement. Nobody could put a reason together. It was all speculation. Was he happy in the area? Was he getting on with Eddie Howe, with the board backing him, etc.? Craig Hope has written an article in the Daily Mail today which has really opened a box full of worms. So we'll take a look at it all. Liam Delap looks like he has decided on Chelsea as his next destination, blaming Newcastle United's Alexander Isak for one of the reasons why he wouldn't be signing for us. And Simon Jordan has backed us up as hairy hands Richard Keys has once again tried to stick the knife into the club after our qualification for the Champions League. Let's take a look. Hi everybody, I'm Paul. Welcome back to the Toon Review YouTube channel and today's Newcastle United news. We will start with the huge article written by Craig Hope in the Daily Mail regarding the real reasons for Paul Mitchell's exit. It seems like everything was not great behind the scenes. It looks like staff, etc., were not happy with Mitchell. Of course, Mitchell gave his announcement the other day and said that one of the main reasons was because his good friend Darren Eales was leaving the club. Of course, Darren is taking a time out to fight blood cancer, and we wish him all the very best for a full recovery, of course. But Mitchell, that kind of led us to think, what's going on in the boardroom? If that's the only reason he's leaving, does he not feel like he's being backed by the rest of the board or the staff at the club? Well, Craig Hope's article has really opened things up. Apparently, he will not be missed by members of staff inside the club who were less than pleased with his daily approach to work at the club. The report states that in his early meetings, staff were not inspired by his words, which looked at being elite and focusing on Newcastle United's playing style, which they thought Eddie Howe covered. Now, that's a big one for me. Because if you remember early doors, people were thinking straight away that something was amiss, that Eddie Howe wasn't getting on with Paul Mitchell. And many thought it might have been to do with transfers. But if Paul Mitchell's walked in the door and said, right, I want Newcastle United to be playing this particular way, that's not his job. That's not what he's there for. Eddie Howe is the coach of Newcastle United. He decides on our playing style. The director of football has nothing to do with the way Newcastle United play football. And that really states to me that if that's the case, that puts people's backs up straight away that he is trying to really do too much too soon. And if he's walking in the door trying to tell Eddie Howe what playing style Newcastle United should be doing, that's going to put Eddie's back up straight away, is it not? If you're doing a job and you've been in that job a while, and then somebody else comes in and says, you shouldn't be doing it this way, you should be doing it that way, yet the way you're doing it has been very successful. How would you feel? It would put you back up immediately, because then you're feeling like, well, am I not doing a good enough job here? You want to change the style? Am I not doing the job that I'm supposed to be doing? And I can understand if Eddie Howe wasn't happy with that. One instance was highlighted where Mitchell did not take well to comments that he had not been seen at work for a long time. Now, we as fans haven't seen much of Paul Mitchell. We haven't seen him communicate with us very often, if at all. And clearly there, it looks like the staff are asking questions long term about where this guy is. What is he doing? What's his job? And then it says by the end, many staff members had given up on having a relationship with Mitchell. So this looks like he's been very unapproachable. He's not been around the people at work. They've been asking questions as to where the hell he is. I mean, this is real intriguing stuff, this. It also goes on to say that the speculation was mounting that Mitchell himself wanted Eddie Howe to leave Newcastle United. It says Eddie Howe and Mitchell never seemed to fully click at Newcastle, especially in the latter's early days at the club. Reports suggested Mitchell had upset Newcastle staff last year after he branded the club's transfer strategy as not fit for purpose following a turbulent summer. Now, we knew when he made them comments that was going to cause a little bit of ruction. Because, like I say, you're doing a job, somebody walks in and says it's not fit for purpose, you're going to get people asking questions about it. But at the time, we all thought, oh, that's great. Mitchell's come in and he's making his stand straight away by announcing that it's not fit for purpose and things need to change. And we were praising Paul Mitchell for that. But it seems like it hasn't really gone that way in the way that he did it. Howe was able to rebuild his relationship with Mitchell, but now will take more control at the club alongside Steve Nixon. The Toon boss may also be pleased to see the back of Mitchell, as the same Daily Mail report from Craig Hope suggested that the sporting director wanted Howe to leave Newcastle in favour of a new head coach. Players internally believed that Mitchell wanted former Tottenham boss Mauricio Pochettino to take over from Howe, but that never came to fruition. Now, doesn't that just tell you, maybe, why we had a bit of a dodgy start to the season? It's clear to me, because if you look at that, and it says there, players internally believed that Paul Mitchell was wanting Pochettino and Eddie Howe out. Now, as a player, where do you stand with that? You're going to then you've got loyalty to your manager. It's going to cause friction, is it not? And that could well explain why things weren't clicking at the start of the season. Because you've got Paul Mitchell trying to get Eddie Howe out the door, and Eddie Howe fighting back. And it's clear that the club wanted Eddie Howe. The chairman, everybody wanted Eddie Howe. Now, at the time, obviously, Amanda and me and Dad were still at the club. They wanted Eddie Howe. They loved Eddie Howe. And it's clear that Eddie Howe has made a huge impression on a lot of people at that football club, including us as fans. Yes, he was questioned earlier on in the season, and some people will think that was right to do, and that's their prerogative. Eddie has now gone on and proven those wrong, and people have come out and said, it's great that Eddie's changed my mind. That's what it's all about, getting results and changing your mind and proving yourself. And Eddie's done exactly that. But it seems to me, certainly from all the stories that are now coming out regarding Paul Mitchell, that he was a bit of a, not a very friendly guy. And very determined to do his way or no way at all. Now, this is a big game changer for me, because everybody was thinking that Eddie Howe has won the power struggle. Eddie Howe was the one that, didn't want this or didn't want that. But it seems it's the other way around, that Mitchell was wanting the huge changes, not Eddie. Mitchell was wanting the huge changes, and Eddie Howe stuck to his guns and eventually has won the battle with Mitchell. But the fact is that internally at the club, there was a lot of staff not happy with Paul Mitchell. So that's really tells me why he's actually leaving the club. Yes, it'll have a big influence on Darren Neal's leaving, because as we suggested, he's not got that internal support behind the scenes when Darren Neal's leaves the club. But everybody having a dig at Eddie Howe, saying, oh, Eddie's got his own way, that doesn't seem to be the case. Because what Eddie's done is just continued to work hard and has continued to be very grateful to all his staff. If you look, whenever we win anything, Eddie Howe is first to congratulate his staff and everybody at the club, everybody who works at Newcastle United. He is there. He is praising them. And of course that's going to make him well liked. He conducts himself in a magnificent way at the football club, which has got the support of absolutely everybody. And then Mitchell's come in and instantly said he wants to change the playing style. He's hardly ever seen it work. Nobody knows where the man is. He hasn't formed relationships with staff members. It's obviously going to fail. And I'm very surprised at this, because when we looked at Paul Mitchell before he was appointed, his CV was absolutely fantastic. We were really excited as to the calibre of player that Mitchell could bring into the club. But it seems like there's an underbelly of this guy that really thinks he's the king of the castle and doesn't really want to do it any other way bar his. And there lies the problem. Because Eddie has been there for years. He's done it. He's been fantastic. But Mitchell's wanted to change it. He's wanted Eddie out the club. That changes everything for me. If you've got a guy who wants you out of the club, are you really going to have a relationship with him? No, you're not. Your back's going to be up. You're always looking over your shoulder for a start. But it seems like Eddie Howe has had the backing of a lot more people than what Mitchell did. It seems like Eddie Howe's had the backing of the chairman, obviously all the staff at Newcastle United who are right behind Eddie and what he's doing for the club and where he's taken the club. But Mitchell wanted to completely change things by getting rid of the manager, change the style of play. That, for me, tells you everything. Tells you absolutely everything. It's an intriguing article and kind of opens up as to why he's going. And things were clearly not great behind the scenes. Clearly now, that is evident. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Was it as you thought? Did you think that maybe things weren't going on well behind the scenes? Did you think that he wanted Eddie Howe out? Like he had, I mean, the players, how, they've obviously got word from somewhere that Mitchell wanted Eddie Howe out. That's going to cause all sorts of problems that we didn't need. But I tell you what the delightful thing is the fact that we've overcome all that as a team, as a squad. They've bonded. They've bonded. The squad have bonded with their manager and coaching staff to go on and achieve magnificent things this season. And you have to say a huge well done for them for overcoming all the obstacles, which some of them were caused by our director of football, wanting to change the style, saying things about the staff, not turning up for work, wanting Eddie Howe fired. I mean, Jesus Christ, the list goes on. But let me know what you think of it all in the comments below. Now it seems like Liam Delap, who was a massive target for Newcastle United as well as many other clubs in the Premier League. Of course, Manchester United were apparently favourites. I mean, I don't know how close they were to signing Liam Delap. The Manchester United fan channels claim that they were the big team that they were going to sign him. I mean, they're signing every bugger at the minute. They reckon they are still... I'll tell you something now. Chris from Evermore made a great point on X this morning that some Man United fans really do still believe that they're in 1999. You know, when they're winning everything and they're a massive pull to a lot of players. They're not anymore. They're clearly not. And somebody like Liam Delap, who has got his future in front of him, you know, back then, a chance to join Manchester United, he would have done it in a heartbeat. But not now. Man United aren't that club anymore. They're just not that club. But the disappointing thing is, it looks like he's going to bloody Chelsea of all clubs. Chelsea. Yet again, this team that can bend their way around FFP and PSR, every single transfer window, they do this. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they get away with it. I have my suspicions that there's back pocket stuff going on, but you'll never know. However, he blames... The report states that one of the reasons why he's not going to Newcastle United is because of Alexander Isak. Now, this is a discussion that we've had in the past about what striker is going to come to Newcastle and, you know, fight for a place with Alexander Isak. But he's gone to Chelsea. Or it looks like he's going to Chelsea. Now, is he really guaranteed first-team football under Maresca? I'm not so sure. They've got some decent players down there. So is really Liam Delap going to walk straight into that Chelsea side? It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. And, you know, I mean, look, everybody's saying he's going to Chelsea. That some of the big names in the journalistic world are saying that Chelsea is the team he's going to do, and that it should all be wrapped up in the next few days. Honestly, I find it bizarre. I really do, how Chelsea can keep affording millions and millions of pounds on players and seemingly get round the FFP and PSR regulations. It baffles me. It really does. But his reason for not going to Newcastle, that puzzles me a little bit, I have to say. Now, Simon Jordan, one of the men who I frequently hammer on this channel because some of the stuff that this man comes out with is mental. And he's sometimes I listen to him and say and think to myself, you've come up with a really good point there. He's very interesting to listen to, Simon Jordan. He's a very good speaker, and some of the stuff that he says is really good. And I believe that Simon Jordan should have a place in the FA. I've said that for a long time. I don't agree with everything he says, not by a long shot, but the stuff where he talks about football and the rules and things like that, I really do back him. And I think there should be a place for somebody with a level head like that. However, the other guy, Hairy Hands Richard Keys, shamed Sky Sports presenter, has once again made a dig at Newcastle United regarding qualifying for the Champions League. Richard Keys said he feels uncomfortable that Newcastle United will be amongst the elite clubs in Europe alongside Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City and Chelsea. How dare he? What an absolute fuckwit this man is. And look, I've had digs at Richard Keys before. A lot of Newcastle United fans have had digs at Richard Keys before. He's a melon. He's an absolute melon. And then, of course, his little sidekick, his bum chum, Andy Gray, agreed. He says, I can't get my head around it. He says 6 English sides and we call it the Champions League. These are the rules. The Champions League has been the Champions League for God knows how long now, with a lot of entries from a lot of countries, not just one. Get out the gutter and live in the present and not in the past. But Richard Keys, he can't wait to have a dig at Newcastle United and say, that we don't deserve to be up there around the likes of the cartel clubs. What a load of bollocks. The league doesn't lie. We finished 5th, end of the season, that's it. But Simon Jordan was quick to pounce on him and said that he's talking utter tosh. Newcastle United have worked so hard this season to get where they are, despite having such a small squad. They've had ups and downs during the season. The cup win really got them back on track to, finish the season in style. Yes, the last day of the season didn't go very well, but Simon Jordan says it's fantastic Newcastle United are there. It opens the door to Newcastle having more resources to be able to beat the system and get to be a side that wins the Premier League. He said, so if you take away the context and say, should you be celebrating getting inside the top 5? It depends on what sort of club you are. But what happens after that is it creates an opportunity to be the ultimate winner, so that's part of the journey. How can you disagree with that? Brilliant words from Simon Jordan there. But these pillocks like Keys and Gray, they haven't got a clue. They just want to live in the past and, of course, stick up for the cartel clubs who they really adore. That they absolutely adore. They hate the fact that Newcastle United, Villa and other clubs are now up surrounding the top clubs in the Premier League. They hate it because they've been part of the cartel for a long time now. And that's never going to change, by the way. But when you hear Simon Jordan come out like that and battle back with Richard Keys and tell him he's talking a load of tosh, I love it because he is talking tosh. He's a bell end. And so's his mate Andy Gray. 2 pillocks now broadcasting on the other side of the world, and good riddance to them. Dirty bastard that Richard Keys is. I can't stand the bloke. But anyway, there you go. That is the latest news, guys. Of course, we will bring you any breaking news that comes during this crazy build-up to the transfer window. But as usual, let me know in the comments below what you think of all the stories today. Give it a like if you've enjoyed the video, guys, because it's still massive to the channel to keep the likes coming in. And of course, if you're new, please do subscribe. It is free to do so. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. And thank you very much to all our subscribers who subscribe to the channel of late. Welcome and thank you again. Fantastic community here that we have on this very, very quick growing channel. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Enjoy your rest of your Thursday. See you soon.